Hey guys, what's going on? So I am going to speed through this at a certain point, because the only thing that really matters is the 5 minutes till whenever this battle ends. So just so that I can catch you up, this is the meta currently, as of right now. This is the meta deck. It is Zeus, Phoenix Reincarnation 3. Most of the time, I don't believe this person has Reincarnation 3 at all, and this person wins. This person has a Reincarnation 3 Phoenix with all 3 talents, and this guy still wins. This is a Kobold. Again, not even a Reincarnation 3, just a level 15 Kobold. This guy has a Reincarnation 2 Kobold. This is a Harlequin Gunslinger, and then the mystery magic card Stasis. The reason why I'm trying to catch you up on the reason why the PvP as a mode is about to change. Currently in the game, we are dealing with Deathwaves, and now it is going to be the death of Deathwaves. No more Deathwaves. So if you want to see the full version of like what PvP is going to be, Momo Royale, obviously. He has a video out right now, and essentially what you're doing is every time a boss spawns, every time you're about to get to a boss, a thing happens, like a little guy comes into the middle of the center of the road, where that stasis bubble is right now. And essentially you just do as much damage as you can, and that damage is added to your opponent's boss. So essentially what that does is if you're out damaging your opponent will get a much beefier boss. Now, there's no more death waves. It's just going to be triple bosses, and each boss gets increasingly more difficult as it did before. No more death waves. And the specific reason for that, I'm 90% positive that the specific reason for that is because of Stasis. Stasis, as I've said before, it ruins the spirit of the game. The spirit of the game is who can deal the most damage. What Stasis does, because of Death Waves, is it extends your life by freezing the field, not slowing the field, because you can slow the field with a frost, just a regular frost, not using the freeze ability, but you can use frost, you can use trapper, right? You can use bombardier, kind of stops them as well, but nothing stops the field as efficiently as stasis. And essentially, slowing the field doesn't prevent you from losing. It just slows the field, but stopping the field over and over and over extends your time. So your opponent is then forced to deal damage at the 6 or 7 minute mark, and all decks, whether it be a Reincarnation 3 Phoenix or anything that you probably have, at around the 7 minute mark, it starts to become difficult for everybody. Most people can't get to 5 minutes. 6 minutes is a pretty good benchmark. Phoenix Stasis decks are getting to 9 minutes. And so I'm going to fast forward here to 9 minutes. To 5 minutes, and you'll see how this starts to compile. Essentially, by changing it from time to just original triple bosses and making it more and more difficult, because you can give your opponent a beefier boss at a much earlier rate. You're able to just focus on damage, which is what they're probably trying to make everybody do. This game is in essence, it is a damage-based game. Stasis ruins that by saying, oh, if I just freeze the field, I'll win. And that's how it's been winning. Most damage decks do not have the ability to even do as much base damage as a Phoenix can do. So most damage decks are not going to get to a 7 minute damage anyway. But when you go Phoenix against Phoenix, the edge became who can stasis harder, because Trapper and trying to just deal damage wasn't good enough. And so it just became who can do more stasis bubbles on the field, because that's what's going to allow you to go even further with your time, because it's all based around time. So I'm going to go back to 520, and you'll see how this basically works. All of these stasis bubbles, not only is it slowing everything, it's straight up stopping everything. So at a certain point, both stasis decks don't have the ability to do any more damage. Again, like I said, it's hard for most decks to even get to here within damage, and a stasis deck, it just straight up stops the field. So what they're doing is they're making it damage based again. You cannot just slow the field when you have triple bosses that are going to kill you, because they will just keep going. And your opponent, if they've already killed it, they just get to sit there and watch you struggle. And if you can't kill a boss, you will die. Making this change, I think, affects a couple of things. Obviously, this deck. Stasis is no longer going to be an option. It's just going to be pure damage. You're going to take out a stasis. You're probably going to put in like a Trapper. You're probably going to put in like a Chemist or something, or maybe even a Witch. But it's essentially going to be this deck. These are all the best support cards. They're using a Harley Quinn so that they can get extra kobolds to get that stack higher. But essentially, if you look at the numbers here, again, this person has a Reincarnation 3 Phoenix, or a Reincarnation 2 Phoenix with 225 stacks. This person has 188 stacks. So he's obviously the person that it's going to win is going to is doing less damage than the other person, but because he just happens to slow more, he's going to win. This is 7 minutes. We're 7 minutes in. I think this is going to affect things in a number of different ways. Obviously, this Phoenix Stasis deck, but I think they needed a fix to Bruiser. The interaction between Bruiser and Deathwaves has always been a problem. I think Bard, even though it never fell off because of Deathwaves, we all thought Bard was going to be dead with Deathwaves. They've figured out, Bard players figured out a way to continuously go into high amounts of damage. I think Bard decks are now going to have a much better time. Anything with a cooldown. I don't know if they're going to revert all of the changes, but basically everything with a cooldown has now gotten better. You can see on the field right now, he has all of these Banner Lords, all of these Fire Lions. He has a Tribunal boss, and none of it matters. This is the power of being able to stop the field, not just slow down, but stop the field. The amount, he should be dead here. He just got bedlammed, and it doesn't matter because he's stopping the field, and he's just stopping the field more efficiently than the other person who's obviously has more damage, because it doesn't matter. I think everything that had a cooldown that they reduced, things like Monk and the other, like Dark Inquisitor, I think those are going to get much better because the games are going to be longer in different ways. The thing that Deathwave did is that it just continuously pumped out monsters, and there's a lot more pausing in the new PvP. Again, Momo Royale, you can check his video. There's a lot more pausing, and therefore that means a lot more... your cooldowns have the ability to come back a lot quicker. So your Scrapper cooldown, your Gunslinger cooldown, I think Treant's going to get a little bit better because you'll have Treant cooldown. You'll be able to press the button a lot more. Any hero with a cooldown, right? All your heroes with a cooldown, those are going to get much better. Bard is going to get much better. Bruiser gets much better because it now works as it originally was intended to. But basically, yeah, Stasis is basically useless again because of this PvP change. No more Death Waves. Now you're just dealing with triple bosses and throwing big bosses at your opponent by dealing damage. I think that this is kind of another nerf to Toxic, because obviously Toxic decks are never going to out DPS a DPS deck, and so I think that if a DPS deck takes an early lead and has the ability to just fend off Toxic, Toxic is just super dead. They're going to get much higher bosses than they would normally be getting, because your opponent DPS deck is going to super DPS the thing that happens before the boss, and then you're, as a Toxic player, going to get like a giant boss. So I'm invested into like seeing what like secret changes this makes. But I just know that Phoenix Stasis is no more.